Um, yeah, it's finally here. Have y'all been talking about SECs and being in New Orleans? It's like it's your backyard. You know, it's you can have a lot of fans there. You know, what's the excitement been like building for this meet, other than the fact that it's a huge meet on the schedule and a championship y'all want to go for?
I think we've been looking forward to this meet pretty much all year, and since we've known that it was going to be in New Orleans, looking back, I think it's been one step at a time. But now that we're finally here, I think all of our focus is going into this week. Like this entire year, we've been preparing. Like all of this is typically like practice for what we want to do this Saturday, and so I think we've done a great job preparing for it, and we're really excited to be able to perform in our hometown or our backyard, like you said.
Definitely. That was good. That was beautiful. So beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah.
Yeah.
Haleigh, I guess just something hit me in the post-meet interview session before, and both y'all, we'll start with Haleigh. Just Kaya's injury last year and the resiliency that the team showed. Is that where you guys feel like this team kind of evolved to what it is this year?
I definitely think it's a small part, definitely, because last year, obviously, we had so much adversity that we had to go through, and we really kind of had to test that. And Jay always says you honor somebody with your actions, and I feel like that's something we held on to even this year, because we have people this year that can't contribute in the ways they would like to be contributing right now, but we're honoring them with our actions, and we're doing everything for them because they want the best for us, and we're going to give them what we have.
Yeah, just to kind of follow what Haleigh said, our team still this year is going through a lot of adversity, and some things you do see and some things that you don't. And so I think we're taking what we've learned last year and what kind of worked for us last year, and we're propelling it into this season. So there's not as, I guess you could say, adversity this year, but there still is stuff from the day-to-day to what our weeks look like. And so really just using what we learned from last year and using that, like Haleigh said, we honor people with our actions, and so continuing to push that into this season as well has definitely been working for us.
Haleigh, some athletes are numbers people, some are not. Are you someone who looks at the stats a lot? And have you noticed that your stats have been incredibly consistent this year? I don't want to jinx you by saying how many 9.9 pluses you've gotten in a row, but I mean, is that something that scoring is subjective, but it's an indication of how the season has gone for you? How do you think you've done this year?
I don't really look at the stats too much, I would say, but I definitely am a score watcher during the competition. I'm seeing the scores that are coming up. I'm not thinking too much about them, but I'm definitely keeping my eye on them. I don't know. I feel like this year I really just was trying to enjoy the whole entire experience and not worry about the scores, not worry about the outcome, just doing my gymnastics for my team and enjoying this year, just because I feel like we've all gone through so much from my freshman year to my senior year, and I feel like this year I just wanted to enjoy it, and the results are going to play out. And if we do what we do, and if I do what I do every single day in the gym out on the competition floor, then the results are going to play out just like they should.
Aleah, that was your first time in the all-around on Friday this season, right?
Yes, correct.
And that's kind of a contrast to last year, where the two of you were constantly doing all four events every time you guys took the floor.
There's a bug. Sorry, there's a bug.
Take your time.
I was like, oh God. I was like, it's coming towards us. So sorry. Continue.
Is it gone?
I think so. I think it went that way.
Okay. I think kind of what I'm looking for is there's been a lot of change in the lineup because of the depth that you guys had, and now you finally have that opportunity to do the all-around. Where do you feel like your guys' lineup is at a whole, in your eyes?
I don't really have too much to say about lineups because that's not my choice and that's not, my decision overall. But I really just want to help the team contribute in any way I can, whether that's one events, whether that's four events. And, it felt really great to be back out there on all four events. But, of course, ultimately I just want to do what I can for the team.
You guys had a great season last year. This year, trying to take it a step further, especially in the postseason. What do you think separates a team from being a finalist versus a national champion?
I feel like the mindset's going to be the number one thing that sets everybody apart, because you're going to be there for a reason. The gymnastics is there. Obviously, you're there because your gymnastics is what it is. So it's going to come down to whose mindset's the strongest on the final day and who can handle the pressure of kind of just looking around and being like, okay, we're competing for a national championship right now, and not making it more than it has to be, because obviously when you compete at a big stage like that, you want to kind of try to press a little bit more. You want to be perfect, and those are obviously the things that are in your head. But I think on that final day, it's kind of just going to be like, do your normal gymnastics and the mindset of, yeah, just normal.
You want to go?
Oh, I was just going to kind of add on to what Haleigh was saying. Absolutely. I think the mindset has everything to do with it, because, you know, everyone has the same skills relatively, but it's who can hit when and who is going to show up on that specific day.
Just curious for both of you. We'll start with Lee. Just how do you look at the championship down in New Orleans? Because it doesn't really count for, you know, your big goals, but it's still something you try to pour everything into, or do you really try to, how do you look at it?
I think this was definitely one of our number one goals coming into this season. This is something that we want. This is something that we've had our eye on. And like I said before, you know, we were really just taking it one step at a time, but ultimately here, and this is where our mindset is. And we're going to go in there, you know, full speed ahead and ultimately let the cards lay.
Yeah, definitely. Not making it more than it has to be. Obviously, starting on vault is something we're really excited about. I've never started on vault since I've been here, so we're really, really excited on that. Get started on the right note, start fast, finish strong, and ending on floor in New Orleans is going to be so much fun. It's something we've definitely thought about, and we're just really excited, but not making it more than it has to be, and just taking it like one more competition and one step in the right direction for the other goals we have ahead.
How important is that to you? Is it a calming effect when you get to start on vault?
Obviously, it really shouldn't matter where you start. You should be able to have the same mindset, but I feel like starting on vault is something that's very good. I feel like because we do it at home, and it's going to kind of feel like a home atmosphere starting on vault, going in Olympic order. Yeah, I feel like we're just really excited.
For you personally, though?
Yeah, for sure. I'm very excited to start on vault. Very excited, because you get to end on floor. And the past SEC championships, we started on bars and had to end on vault, which is a fast event, so you kind of just sit there and wait and look around. But this year we get to probably be the last team to finish on floor, so it's going to be something really exciting. That is true. We do have a new format.
Lee, same thing. Just starting on vault, does that give you a comfort level?
I think more just the fact that we have placed ourselves, you know, as the number one seed going in, like that in itself has given us the confidence that we need to, you know, just head into this with, you know, our head up and all the confidence in the world going into this event. It's not necessarily like, oh, like we're starting on vault and like blowing it up more than it should be, but it's just the fact that, you know, we've worked hard to be where we are in this position, and so we're going to take every advantage of that.
Talked a lot about mindset there, especially what separates teams. Are there things you learned from last year that have that in a better spot maybe this season?
I think our biggest takeaway from last year is really just leaning on each other. You know, last year, like we said, we faced a lot of adversity, and, you know, this year we learned to just lean on each other during those times, and, you know, we're leaning on each other even now to still be able to continue to our goals.
Definitely, yeah.
The way coaches have been able to set up the schedule, you know, we're at home. You went to the River Center for a podium meet, which is, aside from having to take cars instead of a bus, was not bad. You finished at home. Now you're just going down the road to New Orleans. Just talk about how the preparation and the run of this. Is this about as comfortable a spot, about as well prepared and rested, if I can use that word, as you could hope to be going into something this big a meet?
Yeah, I definitely think it was an advantage kind of staying at home for a while, because obviously traveling's very exhausting, like getting on a plane, getting back late. So I think this is something that really is going to set us best up for success, because we've gotten a lot of rest, 2-day weekends. So it's just been really, really good, and I feel like it's going to set us up for success. If that makes sense. Sometimes I just speak and I don't know what I'm saying. Oh, that's good. Oh.
Thank you, guys. See y'all later. I'll pull out his chair for him. Right here.
Hey, I think the fly was bad. There was something in the ceiling last night. After basketball, yes, like a squirrel. I want to think it's a squirrel, Haleigh. Yeah.
We'll go with squirrel. It's the rally possum coming to help us out. So, okay, SEC week. You heard it from them. I don't know that there's a whole lot more for me to add. It's we're excited about the opportunity that lays ahead of us. It's not the finale or anything like that, but it is something that certainly is important to us to go there and represent well, and especially since it's in New Orleans and compete well. I mean, the work is done. The preparation is in the tank, and we've just got to make sure that we stay within ourselves. Don't try to be something more. We need to be our normal, or right around there, and you heard Aleah say it, and then let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, why is it important to y'all? Is it, as a coach, does it provide enough pressure for what's still to come that you get a true?
I think the Southeastern Conference Championship in our sport is extremely coveted. I know there's different schools of thought in different sports, and I'm not one that thinks that the SEC Championship should be minimized. I think in our sport, I mean, it in many ways is the marquee event of our sport. There's not another conference that can put that many top 10 teams in their championship meet, and so it's extremely competitive. The conference does a great job putting it on. We're in an NBA arena. You know, it's a big deal, and so I think our fans love it and covet it. I think in our sport, it has long been, right up there with the NCAA championship in terms of the prestige of the event, and it's the SEC. It just means more.
How good is it to have that, maybe a better atmosphere and certainly better competition than a regional that's still 2 weeks?
Well, I wouldn't say regionals anymore is less of a competition. Regionals is probably the biggest. I call it a meat grinder. It's a meat grinder of a deal, the 2-day thing, and we've concentrated all the talent down to 4 spots. Which is great. It's been good for the sport. I'd like to see us go to neutral sites and get rid of the idea that a host team has a significant advantage in there, because the parity is so close now that I think it's a marked advantage to host that thing. And in many ways, a lot of times you'll see the host get out and everybody else is fighting for another spot, the one other spot. So it's in a lot of ways, that's the hardest thing we do is the 2-day regional format that before you can get to the semifinals. So I do think that the SEC championship prepares us for the tournament, which is what it is. I mean, now once our bracket's set, it's very much like the basketball tournament. It's just cut in half, and it's the SEC meet really prepares us just from I think just from the mindset standpoint, it prepares the teams in this conference really well.
Yeah. Obviously, you've been to a few SEC championships over the years. If you could think back to the one in 2019, the previous one in New Orleans, what that atmosphere was like. Did it bring a little something different? And what does that level of support mean to you guys? It's not a home meet, but there'll be a lot of fans.
No, I think New Orleans provides everyone. Obviously, it'll be somewhat of a partisan crowd, I would imagine, just from the locale. But New Orleans provides everyone a great opportunity. It's in 2019, it was the first time it had ever been there, and we got the state behind us and the governor, and really, Dee pulled a lot of things together to try and make that happen, and it turned out to be the most well attended to this point, even now, of any of the meets. I'm a proponent of a city like New Orleans, whether it's New Orleans or Tampa or Nashville or something, becoming kind of a permanent home for our championship. I think we should continue to seek out the NBA level arenas or NHL level arenas that put us in destination cities that give the fans something to travel for other than a 2-hour event. Gives them they can make a long weekend of it. And so I think New Orleans provides that for us. I know that other coaches probably wouldn't support New Orleans becoming a permanent or semi-permanent home. But I would support Tampa, or I would support, some of these other possibilities, just because I think for us as a conference to continue to be at the forefront of what we're doing in our sport, we need to be in the better arenas. We need to be competing in front of the large crowds. We need to be able to attract a new audience constantly. And the destination city helps us do that. It accentuates the event and provides us with a greater level of attraction for our sport. So it's something that I'm a proponent of, and I'm excited about it being in New Orleans for sure. But I think there are other possibilities that could provide the same kind of opportunities. But as many times as we can have it in New Orleans, I'm for it.
We heard from the girls how excited they are to start on vault. What are your thoughts on starting on vault on Saturday?
I mean, you heard Haleigh say it. You got to compete all four. So really, ultimately, it shouldn't make a whole lot of difference. I do think that obviously, when you've competed half your season doing the Olympic rotation when you're home, that provides a level of familiarity and comfort. That we kind of know what that feels like and what that pace feels like when we go and get to do that. But we've earned that. It's been a season where we get to do that because we earned it. It wasn't luck of the draw, and that's another thing in our regional thing. We don't ever know where we're going to start because everything's pulled out of a hat. So the regular season doesn't help you in terms of the seeding process in our postseason with NCAA doesn't really help us. I think the conference does it right when a team, and this is the first time we've been the one seed in a while. So I'm glad to be starting on vault. I think it would be disingenuous for me to say otherwise, but I would be confident with this group if we started on bars or anywhere else too. So, it's going to be a heck of a meet. When you look at the NQSs and the average scores of the 4 meets in that evening session, and even the teams in the afternoon session, it's tight. It's going to be fun, and it'll be exciting for the fans, I'm sure.
Did you get to pick? Do you get to pick?
Yeah, when you pick based on your seeding order. So the SEC reaches out and says, you are the number 1 seed. What event do you want to start on? So ball, which, in Florida's the 2, and in most cases, traditionally, the 2 would pick bars because that's the other starting event that you've started on half the season when you've been away. They chose beam. They're a really strong beam team, and I guess they felt like they wanted to get off to a good start there. It was interesting. You don't see that very often when people are given the option, but they're a very strong beam team, and obviously they're confident and they want to get off to a good start, and so they chose that. So then Kentucky then picked, and they chose bars, and Alabama ended up starting on floor.
I've never thought about pace in a meet until you just referenced it, but could you speak to that? And I guess the girls that are competing in multiple events and realizing that that's something that they have to keep in mind?
Well, it used to be in the old format when all 4 events in these quad meets were going simultaneously with no real governor between them, that vault would finish quickly because it's so fast. Like the event, so you get through 6 vaults a whole lot faster than you can 6 beam sets. But now television came and sort of put this protocol on us where you're basically running 2 dual meets, for lack of a better description, a dual meet like a home meet. Vault and beam are alternating, and bars and floor are alternating. And so the idea is that they will cover more, get greater television coverage, but it does slow down the shorter events being vault and bars. In other words, there's a longer wait time than what they're accustomed to between routines. So part of the reason we went downtown was not just to get a road score and get on a podium, but also to kind of run through that format again. We did it in Salt Lake City when we went early in the year, and we ran that format. ESPN ran it. And, we'll see. I don't hate it as much as I thought I would, but I'm not a huge fan of it because I think on vault and bars it does cause a little bit of a delay and kids can get cold. You're used to that on beam and floor, but it's different than any part of the other part of the season when you're talking about vault and bars. So it does get a little long. When you're 5th or 6th on those 2 events, it can get a little long, the waiting for a beam set or a floor routine. But that pace is something we've practiced now twice, and so we're familiar enough with it that, I mean, look, we all got to do it. So it's everybody should be familiar with it, at least some. I think everybody in the meet has gone somewhere where they've done a run through of that format.
What makes Haleigh Bryant so good? No, just kidding.
I was gonna throw this microphone at you.
You heard me ask the girls about Kaya's injury last year and how to me it kind of crystallized their resolve. Is there that, and then maybe something else that you've seen that's made this team who it is?
I don't know if I can point to any one thing. I think our team that returned from last year did a good job of hearing us talk about the fact that the attributes and the things that we learned we needed to have in order to achieve in the environment and in the circumstances we were in last year were attributes that needed to be consistent going forward. And I think they've done a good job of adhering to that. Now, you introduced 5, 6, 7 new people, but all of whom had experience at a high level except for the freshmen in terms of being part of a team that was achieving. And so there's nothing new under the sun. I mean, if you've been at, we got transfers from Utah and Florida, I'm sure there's a lot of similarities to the kinds of things that those coaches are trying to get their teams to exhibit in terms of teams. So it's been an easy assimilation of those people and the understanding of the attributes we need to have. It's been a good year in terms of people understanding their roles and being unselfish. Not always happy if they're not in. There's some that would like to be in more, and I certainly understand that. But understanding and embracing their role and being supportive and pouring into each other and really doing it for each other. And we talk. You heard one of them say, it's something I repeat a lot. You want to honor somebody, you don't do it with your words, you do it with your actions. You honor each other with your actions. And sometimes that means in the midst of someone's adversity, and sometimes it means it's in the midst of your own adversity when it's an opportunity for them, and you honor them by how you behave and how you respond to their success. And so it's something that we talk about. But I don't know that there's a one turning point, that moment that I can say there's the moment that it's just been a really good, consistent, steady climb to this point, and for lack of a better word. And I'm proud of them. I'm proud of what they've achieved so far. But really, none of it matters now. It's just except that you're prepared, and the work, the hay's in the barn, and you just got to go take everything you've learned and the experience you've had and move it forward.
Speaking of vault, you've been a little grumpy at times after vault performances, but y'all are number 2 in the country. You have the best single meet score on vault.
Yeah.
Is it just you? Do those things make you realize how great you guys can be, and maybe sometimes you quite aren't, or what? Where are you?
No, well, a couple of things. I get irritated when I think KJ Johnson doesn't get the score she deserves. I think it's the best Yurchenko full in the country. I know it's a 9.95 start, but when she plants that thing, it's so when you've seen me get a little bit irritated, sometimes it centers around that. But I think a lot of people this year on vault, have had trouble dialing in landings. And if you look around the country, that's been maybe the place where there can be some separation. I think Oklahoma's done probably the best job of landing consistently on that event of anybody. But I like our vault lineup. I think our vault lineup is as good as anybody's in the country on a given day. And I think we're ranked number 2 in the country, so we're doing something right on that event. But I think when you see me that way, it generally centers around, I feel like KJ's vault doesn't always get quite what it deserves.
I thought you were just asking the judges what they had for dinner when you walked over there during vault. But I remember earlier in the season, you were talking about, for Connor and Amari, the difference between an elite meet versus a college dual meet. And then now they're entering their first postseason with you all. Is there any difference that they're going to have to, or is it kind of similar to the events that you're talking about at River Center?
Yeah, I think both of them have a wealth of experience on podium and in big meet situations, and now they're no longer really freshmen. As far as I'm concerned, they're comfortable in their own skin in the role that they're playing for this team. So this meet doesn't, all of a sudden climb all over them. It shouldn't. I mean, we've got to make sure that we just we've had big meets all year. You know, whether you compete when you're in this league, you're competing against Florida and you're competing against Alabama and you're competing against Kentucky and you're competing against Missouri. I mean, any of these teams are good on any given week, and so I don't think there's any greater sense of any other greater sense of expectation or anything that we haven't already experienced in our dual meet situation most of the year. So, I think Connor and Amari have shown a great deal of maturity, and I have every confidence that that'll continue to be the case.
I think after the UNC meet, you talked a little bit about maybe there's perhaps a sense of complacency maybe setting in. Is that something you guys have addressed?
Not after the UNC meet, headed into it. I felt like last week the preparation, our edge came off a little bit, and I did mention that a little bit, and I was and I kind of let them know about it. I felt like we look, it's hard. You know, those things happen sometimes. You go through a long season, and it's hard to stay here all the time. And I get that, but I felt like last week going into the UNC meet, the focus kind of came off of what we were doing and became more about the ceremony and the things that were surrounding our last home meet. And I think we did a good job. I think we mixed the lineup up a little bit. We didn't have Haleigh or Kaya in the all-around. We did get Aleah in there for the first time, doing all 4 events, and we were able to get Liv out there to do a little more, and got some exhibitions in, and there was a lot of things that we accomplished and still got a great score. So if that's as bad as we get when our edge comes off, I think we're in a good spot. But, obviously we got to kind of get back to business, because we had a 5 or 6 week run there where things were, just pretty dialed in every day, and that's where we've kind of got to get back to that.
Yeah, are we missing anything? Anything we should be talking about?
You gonna ask me to ask you the question?
I asked you to come up with your own question.
Oh, come
which you
on,
would
my
then
own
answer.
question. I don't know. You know what? I just hope the fans will get out there. I know ticket sales have been good. I don't know, Alyssa, you may know more than I do in terms of where we're at on that. But, my hope is that our fan base and New Orleans and people that don't typically get over here to the PMAC because of the drive can get out and get behind us and create a special environment for the whole conference. I want this to be a great experience for every team involved. Obviously, we want our fans in there, letting them hear about it when we come out on the floor, and it should be exciting. It's a great venue. It showcases our sport at the highest level. I couldn't be happier about it being in New Orleans, and I just hope that our fan base will show up and show out. Go Tigers!